Vasan, you actually, both you and Tanom had a bit less time. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we launch into discussion?
Yes, I have something. And so I think the performance, the issue, the content for the artists in Thailand is on about development in 90 to now, until now. So you can see, but performance group like Len Chitima, Sompong Thavi, Mongkol Piet Bang Chang, he tried to make a group to concern with the problem of injustice about the Korean. You can see some painting, the artists come together. And the art, we fighting for art space like that. We fighting more 10 years, so we open this. We only one time the artists win. We fighting for open the culture department, and so the contemporary art building. Tumpon, me, Manit, and all around the people come together, organize the artists all around. I organize 4,000 meters of painting. So I go every province and do the painting to exhibition and confront of the government house. And the environment, safe river, no dam, cone pan, nuclear pan. So it is issue for in art for artists, for Thai artists, they do in that. Okay.
Anything else?
For me, in Thailand, the state tragedy is very, very strong sense of perform. Like more than 13 times for the coup d'etat. It's a kind of state theater. This is the point. And I mean, to taking the issue of political issue, cultural issue, or environmental issue to become a part of art or perform is a kind of reduce of some strategies of. I mean, art in itself is a kind of a soft weapon. So how can we make a fusion of horizon between the real situations and art together and make a sense of connection to the people and the space? Sorry. This is a kind of problematic of.
Sorry to interrupt a little bit. And so about the politics, about the dictator. And so Thanom maybe 10 years he never go to see the Sompong Thavi activity about the freedom, about the dictator. So maybe he just thinking what his idea. This is my interrupt.
Yes, I mean it's the way how to combine, to making the form of the movement. I mean generally. I'm speaking that the way of how can we making the sense of the state of performance. This is, I mean, I cannot comment that any performance event because I see that everyone is a kind of performers already in this country. In the way of, in many ways of their acting. Everyone can be or representative of something that or revealed by the bodies acting to the state itself. This is the way I'm saying.
Okay, so we're going to open it to the floor. Any comments, thoughts, criticism, questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a Question for Tanom. Your talk, how different would it be if the king didn't pass away yesterday?
And please stand up and give a 9 minutes. Keep a silence. That is the way. Yes. That is the answer.
Yes. Come, grab the mic.
Okay. For me, as an outstanding person from Europe, it's since quite a while, since years actually, a problem that many performances are in a certain way political, but all the artists on the festivals never was talked about politics. So it's a kind of taboo to exchange political opinions, but always are there performances. Some are, okay, so it's the same opinion, some are performances are it's always America, it's America, America. So it's a kind of a very strange taboo. And I think to break this today on this ground, it would be another subject. So I suggest to make another talk, something about this special thing about what's taboos, what's politics, how politics performed might be, because I'm also very interested in the history and about Japan, so there's so many things. It's only as an outstanding person, sorry for saying that.
We do have a session on taboo tomorrow, but
Right.
I think what you're talking about is actually beyond what we had planned. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I would like to ask a question. Maybe it's for everyone actually, although it's not directly has to do with what you have presented here. I mean, in terms of the topic. But since the artists are dealing with socio-political issues somehow, so actually I'm curious about what happened, I mean, in your country with your artists concerning the socio-political issues has to do with Islam and its politics today, because it's now it's becoming a sexy kind of issue again, you know. It was before, after 9/11, right? And me, as I come from that background, although I come from mixed background, but still I have to carry the burden of being identified as a Muslim woman. Yeah. So I'm curious what is happening today. I mean, I know in Myanmar there's some funny situation there. We have some refugees from Rohingya in Indonesia today, although officially Indonesian government refused them. But the community in Aceh, the Muslim community, they accepted this refugee, for example. So it's very complex kind of thing, even in regards to that problem in Myanmar. But if we are like looking at what is happening in the world today with the ISIS and the refugees from Syria and all the impact all around, I think it's very interesting for me to understand what is happening in your country. I mean, in Indonesia, my country is now, as I said, the issue is becoming sexy again. So the radical group now is very active again, you know. Actually, in Yogyakarta, maybe Harry Dono already mentioned, now we have again the threat of this group of radical Islamists, which is now strangely backing up by the police and some of the old generals, for example. So this is a really weird combination, although it's not really something new. But before they like make it into secret kind of relationship, but now they openly like, yes, we are together, we are friends, and we have a common enemy. They call it new communists in Indonesia, whatever it means, but they are against the progressive group, basically. So I would like to know what happened here in Thailand, for example, because in 2005, 2006, actually I had a project here curated by Yola, dealing with the minority Muslim and the majority Buddhist. And we tried to sort of like make a kind of project to bring these two problematic group together to start to have a communication in the hope that we can avoid catastrophe, right? So, but now we are heading towards, I think, much bigger catastrophe if we don't talk about this and open this up and discuss and find a way how to deal with it. Thank you.
Yeah, because I was wondering also if any of the artists in the events that you were showing had dealt or was dealing with the Rohingya issue in their work. Are any of the artists in Myanmar actually focusing on that particular issue?
Yes, one is a woman because she's my student. Because my student, she work in some NGO area. I never been in this area, Rohingya area. So I don't know exactly what happens. So I don't know exactly. So my student is so artist Nora. So she work in this NGO. So she can go inside this Rohingya refugee camp. So she expressed this is a Rohingya program there. This is a refugee cancer program there. She expressed also that she mentioned this in Fables, it's a Rohingya issue here.
Yeah, David mentioned it earlier in the day as that the Rohingya had actually been in Myanmar since the 15th century. So, yeah. Other issues?
So, so thank you for the Acetopia today that have give me opportunity to come join. I'm from Laos, and this is the first time that we got invited to join the performance arts. And when I listen in with your presentation from Myanmar, I think we I'm cold actually. I'm not nervous. Yeah. I wondering and like in Laos we have a lot of problem with the political that very sensitive to talk about, And when I saw you in Myanmar, it seems like you guys have a lot of performance artists that's quite brave to do that. In Laos, like in the history and anything, we don't have that, and then nobody do the research or anything, maybe in the future. So, and you said that you went to jail for 3 years, is that right? Because of your performance? Okay. So I want to know how the artists, the performing artists in Myanmar, how they handle with the political issue when they do the art or perform.
So especially the artists want to express the freelance expression here. So very easy. So you want to do is freelance, so you can do is some free. Think about the free media. So you can choose a free media. So when I was a prison, my base is art is I am painter. So I'm painter. So when I was a prison, I think about this. How can this connect to political art? So I choose I find the performance art. Performance art is interactive is audience. So we can give this message direct to the audience. Very easy. So the paintings we need some gallery and there's some so many exhibition. So this is so way is far away from to give this audience. So performance is very easy. I can do it in front of you, also in front of the sunset public area. So very easy. So I choose as a performance art. So especially the government's position. So government position very tight is government positions. So we need to we need to construct our identity. So we need to found the independent power. So artist has the power. So independent power is very important for artists. So especially this is my opinion. This is a personal opinion. So who am I? What am I? So this is I found this the position is our country. So government know about this me. So we are not the government side. So also the audience, also everybody know about me. So we found our independent power.
And okay, a little bit. I'll try to do it short. Do they allow the artists to do political work, or like more open to do the artwork or any kind of artwork in Myanmar? Because in Laos we have like not even the limit, but it's like you can't. So a lot of people warning me, like my family and my friends, like you need to be careful when you do the art. I know that, but it's quite challenged, especially when I joined this conference. Like we talk about more about political and women and gender, which means I focus on that. So it's like I'm gonna talk more on the 16th. But so do they open more about art in Myanmar, like especially like in the political side or any like gender like you just talked about?
So when I was a prison, because of this, so I demonstrated on the street. So that's why I participate in the student union movement. So that's why I'm arrested. So also I was underground movement for 2 years. So this is a democracy political movement. So I think about it. So when I come back to the prison, so I made against the demonstration on the street. So I'm going against the prison. So I connect with the art. Art is so many strategy. So aesthetics, the aesthetic is so we can express this aesthetic. So aesthetic is we can image, we can symbolize it. We can express the symbolize so many things. So we are not direct to the spread is a political issue. We call it a political issue, but we have the strategy. So we can explain, governments they can check, so we explain this another way. So, but some artists, some people, they look at they understand that this is a political issue. So we as an artists are not a horizon. So artists are not the manufacturer. So artists, that there is a computer situation. Also, governments, most of the government people say they don't understand the art. So that's why I choose the art.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm just drawing this question actually from the presentation of Ma'am Eileen. Because you said that performance can be found in all spaces and time, and it does not necessarily fall into activism. This might be a bit stupid question, but do you think, or if everybody has any answer, is there really a possibility of separating art from activism or from politics? Or because for me, I have this notion that art itself is very political. It's like, it's always like check and balance. Like whatever you do, you always go back to either your personal roots, or you always check the current situation that you are into. So I'm kind of like wading, like, oh, what is this field where I am?
I'm sorry. I guess I wasn't very clear. I was actually trying to say that there are artists who pursue their practice and not position themselves as activists, sometimes tactically, because that gives them more room to accomplish certain things. For instance, those who more closely identify with socially engaged art or community organizing will sometimes not even introduce themselves as artists to a community to be able to move the work forward. So that is what I was, in a sense, referring to. On the other hand, there are, because I carry the baggage of the art historian in me, I'm really not too comfortable totally shedding practice that doesn't fall very neatly into the activist rubric. So, so there's that. And then the third point I just wanted to make was that I also, and I didn't speak about this earlier, was that I also sense that there have been artists over time who will spin their work in a political way because it also allows a certain mobility in the art world. And I think it's also the job of the historian and critic, as well as the artist, to be reflexive about that. How lived is the politics that you're trying to perform? I hope that gives you less discomfort.
A little bit. I think it, every country have their own problem. Philippines, Thai, Vietnam, Myanmar, Laos. But we live in our own country. We cannot run away from, we're not exiled like Syria. So we find a way. Everybody have to find a way to fight. If you're thinking about the freedom, but now the freedom became the weapon to destroy, liberty to bomb, liberty to invasion, to bomb Aleppo, to kill everybody because it's for freedom, for democracy. But so democracy became democracy, and so we are a human being, but we are powerless. We have only our life, a short life, and how can we do a little thing? We can make a communicate. I think Ethiopia and meeting. I hope all we learn together. We learn it also very late. We don't know Laos. We don't know Myanmar. We don't know Philippines or Indo. That's only in the news. And so how can we come together? Okay, art and performance art is very cheap, low price, low budget. And so we can make together and learn. And artists to absorb your social and open for art. Oh, thank you. So I absorb my country and open what's going on in my country. It's like the people can talk together, and so we have to cause and so we are living in the uncertainty time. Not sure Thailand, not sure Philippines, not sure Singapore, very problem. And so we confront with now our government is controlled by the money. And so market is free, but we are on slave for in the end.
Okay, two more questions and then we stop. Okay, go ahead. Sion.
Actually, I'd like to expand a little bit on Eileen, did I get your name right? Point on lift politics, because that immediately raises red flags in a way. It kind of expands on what Vasan also talked about, legitimacy. And this has been a question that I've been asking myself over these 2 days, encountering everything that's happening outside of this space. Who am I as an outsider, and what sort of legitimacy do I have to comment? Or how do I behave appropriately? Or how do I know that I'm behaving appropriately or inappropriately? And just relating to the diverse groups of presentation and works that were shared earlier. How do you even begin to relate that into a body, coming together? And I guess that's what Asiatopia has to grapple with, this idea of a Southeast Asian kind of imagined community. And how do we deal with that? And so much gaps in what we are allowed or permitted to say and how we are saying it. And of the last point that I would like to really kind of expand on in relation to perhaps on the third day where we talk about revolution in terms of form, how do we begin to think about that in relationship to what we have listened to today? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one who I would rush to defend, but of course the Japanese work will be the most left of the center that we have seen, and I'm sure that's a point of contention on whether we can consider that performance art, whether performance art is always cheap. Ray and I would probably say that no, based on our most recent experience, that it's not. Just beginning to think about revolution, not just in terms of content, but also in terms of the form itself. How else can we push it, and where is it being pushed to? Yeah.
Okay, one more, yes.
Hi, my name is Pang. So one of the issues, as I understand it, with regards to the distinction or the tension between activism and art, or rather art activism and activist art even, will be that it has been a very productive debate and accusation that some people use issues or activism to gain social capital through art. And this has been a kind of a debate, I think, that has started even during, when people accuse punk rockers of becoming too popular to be punk, right? And so the question with social capital, I think, it's a very strangely beguiling one, because I think we cannot prove that we are not getting social capital. I mean, a person can also gain social capital from accusing somebody else of gaining social capital. So it's that's why it's productive that way, I think. But what I think the interesting question should be is what we do with that social capital and how we redistribute it. And because I've seen people accusing artists of using issues on this very basis of gaining or doing it for the sake of gaining sorry, when I say social capital, for those who may not be familiar with the term, it means becoming popular, let's say, for that issue. Yeah, gaining social mobility, I guess. So I think, and I've seen people make these accusations, and the question can be asked back to this person making the accusation: how do you prove that you are not gaining social capital for anything that you're doing at all? So I think this debate is very interesting, and I think we can and should probably look at how this has been used. The accusation of social capital has been used to derail artists with activist intentions, and how artists can remap their intentions within the notion that this capital is serving entirely the artist's ego, and whether that's entirely a bad thing. Yeah.